You think you know the map of Europe? Think again. It's scarred with borders that defy logic, hiding centuries of forgotten conflicts in plain sight. Today, we're uncovering 25 of the most shocking geographical oddities left behind by war, where houses and entire towns are still split right down the middle. Let's get started. Geopolitical fault lines. 25. The Kaliningrad exclave. Our journey begins with a huge piece of Russia that's completely detached from the motherland, wedged between Poland and Lithuania on the Baltic Sea. This is Kaliningrad. Carved out of German East Prussia after World War II at the 1945 Potsdam Conference, this territory of over 15,000 square kilometers became a key Soviet outpost. Today, it remains a heavily militarized Russian exclave, a relic of the Cold War, now entirely surrounded by NATO countries. For its roughly 1 million residents, a simple trip to mainland Russia means crossing at least 2 international borders. 24. The Cyprus Green Line. In the heart of the Mediterranean lies an island, literally cut in two. After a coup and a Turkish invasion in 1974, Cyprus was divided. The result is the Green Line, a 180-kilometer-long buffer zone patrolled by the United Nations. It slices directly through the capital, Nicosia, making it the last divided capital city in the world. Crossing from south to north is like stepping into a time capsule, a demilitarized zone where buildings have been frozen in time since the conflict began. 23rd. Svalbard's Arctic arrangement. Way up in the Arctic Ocean, the Svalbard archipelago is a geopolitical puzzle. The 1920 Svalbard Treaty gave sovereignty to Norway, but there was a catch. More than 40 other nations who signed the treaty, including Russia, were given equal rights to set up shop for commercial activities, mainly mining. This has led to the strange reality of a Russian coal mining town, Barentsburg, operating on Norwegian soil. During the Cold War, this treaty turned these remote islands into a tense frontier for submarine patrols and spying, a legacy that lingers as the Arctic heats up politically. 22nd. The Aegean Islands dispute. The beautiful Aegean Sea, dotted with over 1,000 islands between Greece and Turkey, looks peaceful, but their ownership is a story written by war. After the Balkan Wars and World War I, most of these islands were transferred to Greece. Turkey, however, has never quite agreed, contesting the ownership of numerous tiny, uninhabited islets. This has been a constant source of tension that nearly boiled over into war in 1996 over 2 tiny rocks known as Imia or Kardak. A full-on naval standoff over a couple of rocks shows you just how fragile peace can be. 21st. The Rock of Gibraltar. Looming 426 meters over the gateway to the Mediterranean is the Rock of Gibraltar, a symbol of a 300-year-old fight. An Anglo-Dutch force seized this tiny peninsula from Spain in 1704, and it was formally handed over to Great Britain in the 1713 Treaty of Utrecht. Spain has never given up its claim, leading to centuries of tension. The border has been a flashpoint, most famously during a 16-year blockade by the Spanish dictator Franco. To this day, it remains a British overseas territory on the Iberian Peninsula, a limestone monument to a long-ago war. Scars on the landscape. 20. The Iron Curtain's ghost. For 40 years, the Iron Curtain wasn't just an idea. It was a physical barrier that split Europe in two. From 1948 to 1989, a fortified border stretching for thousands of kilometers, complete with barbed wire, watchtowers, and minefields, ran along the border of what was then Czechoslovakia and West Germany. When communism fell, this death strip was transformed. Nature took over, creating what is now called the European Green Belt, a one-of-a-kind nature reserve. Today, you can hike along trails where armed guards once patrolled, with eerie concrete watchtowers still standing as monuments to a divided continent. 19. The Oder-Neisse Line. Rivers often make for natural borders, but few are as politically charged as the Oder and Neisse rivers. Drawn up at the 1945 Potsdam Conference, this line became the new post-Wubby border between Germany and Poland. The decision sparked one of the largest forced migrations in history, as millions of Germans were expelled from their homes east of the line. Entire villages that had been German for centuries were either abandoned or repopulated by Poles, completely redrawing the cultural map of Central Europe. 18. The Sava River Divide. Flowing through the Balkans, the Sava River became a hard border after the brutal Bosnian War. The 1995 Dayton Accords, which finally ended the fighting, used the river as the boundary between Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina in several places. This split communities that had lived and worked alongside each other for generations. The legacy of the war is still visible along its banks, where abandoned bunkers rust quietly in the reeds and arguments over fishing rights serve as a daily reminder of the conflict that tore the region apart. 17. The Contested Rhine. The Rhine is one of Europe's most vital waterways, but it has also been a scar of war for centuries. The region of Alsace-Lorraine, which sits on the river between France and Germany, changed hands 4 times between 1871 and 1945. It was taken by Germany, returned to France, taken again by Nazi Germany, and finally returned to France. The bridges in cities like Strasbourg became literal battlegrounds, and the river itself is a powerful symbol of the Franco-German rivalry that defined a century of European history. 16. The Faroe Islands' wartime role. Halfway between Norway and Iceland, you'll find the Faroe Islands, a self-governing nation under the Danish crown. But during World War II, their fate took a sharp turn. When Nazi Germany invaded Denmark in 1940, British forces quickly occupied the Faroes to secure a vital North Atlantic position. This 5-year British occupation left a lasting mark. Later, post-war fishing disputes with the UK, known as the Cod Wars, further shaped the island's relationship with their neighbours, defining maritime borders that are still debated today. It's incredible how conflicts from centuries ago are still visible on our maps. If you're finding these hidden histories as fascinating as we do, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You won't want to miss the rest of our countdown, because we're about to get into some even stranger territory. High-altitude oddities. 15. Triglav's Partisan Peak. Slovenia's highest peak, Mount Triglav, stands at 2,864 meters and is a powerful national symbol. The mountain anchors borders that were forged more recently during the breakup of Yugoslavia, but its slopes hide even older secrets. During World War II, the rugged terrain of Triglav National Park was a sanctuary for Yugoslav partisans fighting Axis occupation. The area is riddled with hidden caves and shelters used by the resistance, turning this stunning natural wonder into a living museum of wartime defiance. 14. The Dinaric Alps' disputed summits. The towering peaks of the Dinaric Alps form the border between Montenegro and Kosovo. This remote, rugged frontier is a landscape shaped by layers of conflict. The mountains still bear the scars of the 1998 to 1999 Kosovo War, with some areas still disputed and monitored by NATO-led forces. But the history goes back much further, to ancient battles fought during the Ottoman era. Hiking through these 2,500-meter peaks means you're walking through a high-altitude war zone where modern borders are drawn over centuries-old battle lines. 13. The Susten Pass and Napoleon's legacy. Switzerland is famous for its neutrality, but funnily enough, its borders were largely drawn by the wars of its neighbors. The magnificent Susten Pass, a high mountain road, overlooks frontiers that were set in stone by the 1815 Congress of Vienna, which put Europe back together after the Napoleonic Wars. While the pass itself was never a battlefield, its glaciers offer a stunning view over the Italian borderlands, a territory that would see its own unification wars just a few decades later. The pass is a pristine, alpine wonder that exists only because of the conflicts that raged around it. 12. The Vršić Pass and the Isonzo Front. In Slovenia's Julian Alps lies the Vršić Pass, the country's highest road pass at 1,611 meters. Its dizzying hairpin turns were built by over 10,000 Russian prisoners of war during World War I for the Austro-Hungarian army. This road supplied the infamous Isonzo Front, one of the bloodiest and most brutal mountain battlefields in human history. Well over 250,000 soldiers died here between 1915 and 1917. Today, the road twists past war memorials and chapels, a somber and beautiful monument to the horrific conflict that carved it into the mountainside. 11. The Matterhorn's shared summit. The iconic pyramid-shaped peak of the Matterhorn seems like a pure expression of nature, but even its summit is a political line in the snow. While the 4,478-meter peak itself is in Switzerland, the international border with Italy runs directly along its summit ridge. This boundary was fixed during the wars of Italian unification in the mid-19th century. For climbers making the dangerous ascent, reaching the top means literally straddling two countries, crossing an international border at one of the highest points in Europe. Extreme enclaves and bizarre borders. 10. Nakhchivan's strategic corridor. The Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic is a large territory belonging to Azerbaijan, yet it's completely separated from the rest of the country by Armenia. Its unusual borders with Armenia and Turkey were drawn by Soviet and Turkish forces after a series of wars around 1920. Isolated and landlocked, its survival depends on a narrow, strategic corridor through Turkey. This strange geopolitical setup, a direct result of early Soviet mapmaking, has left Nakhchivan a secluded and vulnerable pocket of Azerbaijani territory. 9. Dubrovnik's peninsula problem. The famous walled city of Dubrovnik in Croatia is geographically cut off from the rest of the country by a tiny sliver of coastline belonging to Bosnia and Herzegovina. But there's another oddity right next door, the Prevlaka Peninsula. This small strip of land guards the entrance to Montenegro's beautiful Bay of Kotor. After the Yugoslav wars in the 1990s, the peninsula became a heavily demilitarized zone, monitored by the UN. It remains a strategic chokehold, a stark reminder of the conflict that redefined the Adriatic coastline. 8. The divided streets of the Balkans. Imagine your next-door neighbor living in a different country. For residents in villages along the border of Bosnia and Serbia, that's just reality. The border, drawn after the Balkan Wars and World War I and finalized by the Dayton Accords, sometimes runs directly down a village's main street. Families and communities were split apart by a line on a map. Today, residents on one side of the street will often walk just a few feet across the road to do their shopping in the other country, a daily routine that shows just how absurd these war-drawn borders can be. 7. Germany's Vennbahn enclaves. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles declared that a Belgian railway line, the Vennbahn, would remain Belgian territory, even where it snaked through Germany. This created a bizarre situation where the railway track itself is a thin corridor of Belgium running through Germany. This, in turn, cut off several small parcels of German land, creating a handful of tiny German enclaves on the other side of the tracks, completely surrounded by Belgium. The railway is now a popular bike path, letting you cycle in Belgium while looking at Germany on both your left and right. 6. Mützenix near Quadripoint. Right near the Vennbahn is the famous Tri-Point, where Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands meet. But thanks to those same post-World War I border redraws, it creates the illusion of a quadripoint, a spot where four territories almost touch. The Vennbahn Railway gives Belgium a tiny sliver of land that extends south, just barely preventing a fourth territory from joining the meeting point. It's a geographical curiosity born directly from the messy treaties that ended the Great War. 5. Busingen am Hochrhein, the German town in Switzerland. Welcome to Busingen am Hochrhein, a German village that is completely surrounded by Switzerland. Its fate was sealed centuries ago. Despite being proudly German, its 1,500 residents live a very Swiss life. They mostly use the Swiss franc, their phone numbers have Swiss codes, and the local soccer team is the only German team that plays in the Swiss Football League. For all practical purposes, it's a German town that functions as if it was Swiss. Quarto Campione d'Italia, the Italian town in Switzerland. On the other side of Switzerland is a similar oddity, Campione d'Italia. This Italian enclave was left behind after the chaotic redrawing of borders during the Napoleonic era and the subsequent unification of Italy. While it's legally Italian, its economy is completely tied to Switzerland. The town uses the Swiss franc and is part of the Swiss customs area. Its main claim to fame is a massive casino, which was allowed to operate under more liberal Italian laws, making this tiny Italian pocket a gambling haven inside otherwise conservative Switzerland. 3. Livia, the Spanish town in France. Deep in the French Pyrenees, you'll find the town of Livia, and it is entirely Spanish. It's a complete Spanish enclave, surrounded on all sides by French territory. This strange situation is a leftover from the 1659 Treaty of the Pyrenees, which ended the Franco-Spanish War. The treaty gave 33 villages to France, but Livia successfully argued that it was technically a town, not a village, and was therefore exempt. It remains a proud piece of Spain, connected to its mother country only by a single, narrow road. 2. Pheasant Island, the island that switches countries. Perhaps one of the most brilliant solutions to a border dispute is Pheasant Island. Sitting in the Bidassoa River between France and Spain, this small, uninhabited island isn't owned by one country, but by both. Following that same 1659 Treaty of the Pyrenees, the two nations agreed to share it. For 6 months of the year, from February 1st to July 31st, it's under Spanish rule. Then, on August 1st, it peacefully switches to French control until January 31st. This has continued, uninterrupted, for over 360 years. 1. Bali-Nassau/Bali-Hertog, the world's most complicated border. And finally, at number 1, we have the undisputed king of bizarre borders, the twin towns of Bali-Nassau in the Netherlands and Bali-Hertog in Belgium. It's not a single line, it's a chaotic mess. There are 22 separate Belgian enclaves completely inside the Netherlands. To make it even more confusing, within some of these Belgian islands, are 7 Dutch counter-enclaves. The border is a legacy of medieval land-swapping deals between feudal lords, and it runs everywhere, through streets, parks, and even buildings. A house's nationality is decided by which country its front door is in. You can find homes where the kitchen is in one country and the living room is in another. It's a place where you can cross an international border dozens of times just walking down the street, making it without a doubt the most unbelievable geographical fact in Europe. From high mountain peaks to the living rooms of split houses, the map of Europe is a puzzle box of history. These 25 oddities are more than just trivia. They're the living, breathing reminders of conflict and compromise hiding in plain sight. They show us that borders are never just simple lines, and the stories they tell are often far stranger than fiction. What other geographical secrets is the world hiding? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.